Good evening, everybody. We're going to call to order the Thursday, September 24th, 2020 meeting of the Clive City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Cirksena.
Here.
Council members Klein.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
McCoy.
Here.
Judkins.
Here.
And Weaver.
Here.
Okay, all present and accounted for. Nice to have everybody together this evening. As has been our history, I guess, over the last 10 years or so, we started our meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance or reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And recently, because of our, particularly with our Zoom meetings, we've had a scout that's been present to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't have one this week, but we do, however, have our esteemed City Clerk Matthew Graham to lead us. And Matthew, if you would, please.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matthew. Next item is approval of the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda is approved. Okay, the next item is citizens presentation. This is where anybody joining our meeting can address the council on an item that is not on the agenda this evening. If there's anyone here to do that, please make yourself known to Pete the cook so that he can let you in and get your audio clean. Pete?
Thank you, Mayor. And so the best way to do that, folks, is to use the raise hand function. If you're participating by video chat, if you click the participant icon in that black bar at the bottom of your screen, on your Zoom screen, you'll be able to click that, and then that will open up a box that has the raise hand button. If you're participating by phone, you can press *9, and that'll raise your hand, and I will then be getting to those folks as they raise their hands. Mayor, we do have one person who has raised their hand at this time, Tyler Higgs. I'm going to go ahead, Tyler, lower your hand and bring you into the meeting. One moment, please.
All right.
Tyler, this is Pete. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, we've got you.
All right. Dear Mr. Mayor, as you know, I've reached out to you on social media with several questions, specifically related to public education in Iowa. These were questions about your positions on state supplemental aid for schools, vouchers, and restoring collective bargaining rights. And your response to those questions was to delete the questions and then block me on social media. So I followed up by emailing those questions to your campaign email account as well as your mayoral email account. And you never replied from your campaign account, but from your mayoral account, you asked me to, quote, refrain from these communications in the future. The questions I have for you today are the same as my response to the email that I sent a week ago. I'm asking publicly because I still haven't heard back from you. As mayor, do you believe it is important to listen to constituents and provide timely feedback regarding their concerns? Do you think it is okay to silence questions that you find difficult to answer? And do you think it is appropriate for an elected official to block a constituent from petitioning their government for a redress of grievances? I would appreciate an answer to these questions today, as well as an answer to my original questions at your earliest convenience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. Welcome to our city council meeting. And I will say, as you've asked these questions publicly, I will publicly respond that I have restrained from answering your questions because they are politically motivated and orientated. And to answer your first question, yeah, I think it's very important for an elected official to respond to our residents, particularly our residents, on questions that are pertinent to the conducting of city business. Your questions are politically motivated and outside of the scope of city business, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that this is not the forum to be having this kind of conversation. So I'd be willing to meet with you in person. Glad to do that, but I'm going to keep our city council meeting focused on city business. And I don't believe that your questions are really related specifically to city business or the issues that are before the council this evening. So that's my answer. And again, appreciate you being here. And I would say for the record that you have, in the recent past, have been in contact with our staff, our police department, and the council regarding police matters, which have been very appreciated and I think have been answered in a very expeditious and forthright manner. Again, specific city business on issues that are pertinent to the operation of the city of Clive. So that has been appreciated, and we will continue to do that. So at this time, Pete, we'll move to the next resident or other stakeholder that has a question for the council on an item that is not on the agenda. Thank you.
Mayor, at this time, I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Seeing none, we're going to move to consent items, please.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Michael. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, now we have a presentation of a new team member. And we're excited for that. Richard Brown has that for us. Richard?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited to be here tonight to introduce to you our newest youth services librarian. We went through a process upon the resignation of our last youth services librarian in July to find a person to fill this position. We were very excited to see that we got 80 applications for the position. We put them through the ringer, had about 3 rounds of interviews to really narrow it down to find the right person for the job. And so tonight, I'm excited to introduce to you Dee Shalone Dewar to be our next youth services librarian. She's on the meeting tonight, so I'd be happy to have her come on and just introduce herself real quick, but looking forward to her starting on October 5th and get started, and looking forward to seeing what she can do for the team.
Dee, you're a co-host now. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name, like Richard said, is Dee Shalone Dewar. I am coming from Carlisle Public Library. I've been there the last 5 years, and as Richard also said, I'm starting on October 5th, and I'm so excited to be coming on board, and I've had such a great time. Even if it was through the ringer that I was put through, I enjoyed the whole process, so I'm very excited to get started on October 5th.
Well, Dee, welcome, and thank you. It's great to have you on board. We're looking forward to working with you, and really an important position, as you know, and so we're going to look forward to your touch on this aspect of our library. Council, questions or comments for Ms. Dee?
Welcome aboard.
Just want to say welcome.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to advice and books I can check out for my grandchildren.
Excellent. Well, Dee, again, very welcome, and thank you again for being with us tonight. Looking forward to your time with us. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, Richard. We're going to move to action items now, and we have 2 public hearings this evening. The first one is regarding the Clive Public Safety Facility Project. And Matthew, did we publish appropriate public notice?
Yes, Your Honor, that was published September 8th, 2020 in the Des Moines Register.
Thank you, Matthew. We have 3 items here this evening that we're going to be approving in this public hearing. And Matt, why don't you give us the background?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll get us started here tonight. I'm really excited to bring this forward to you. As the council knows, this has been a priority of yours for quite a long time period for many, many years, and something I've been working on for a long time, and happy to really bring this forward to the point of awarding construction or consideration and award of construction contracts. So there is multiple actions for you before you tonight, as typical with any city project: approving plans and specs, and estimate of costs, receiving of bids, and then awarding contracts. A little unique for what we're proposing tonight is the way the packages were bid for this particular project for the construction of a new public safety center at 8800 Hickman Road, is that they were done with 11 different prime contracts. And so you'll be able to do this award with one resolution for all the low bidders of each prime bid package that is included in your packet, and I'm showing here on the screen, as well as alternates that we are recommending. So not going to say a whole lot about it. I want our owner's rep and construction manager to share the good news with you and kind of talk through the various bid packages and talk a little bit about the bid experience that we had that was very favorable and very extensive in terms of the number of bidders involved, and just talk through, you know, this will be the most significant project that the city has undertaken at one time, and really excited to bring this forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Angie Fonku to start it off, and then we'll turn it over to DCI as well. Angie?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As you can see on the screen, the good news is right up there on your screen. So we had done a cost estimate earlier in the year. In May was the last one I believe we had done, and we thought we'd be around 12,100,000. And when we went out and hit the market, we were actually just at right under 10,600,000. So we think that part of the good bids is we were ready to go. We're going to hopefully start moving dirt in the next week or two. So I think having a project that the demo was done in the winter, that was really smart on Clive's part to get that done. So that's out of the way, so these guys can get moving immediately. And this is a good project, kind of a mid-level project that will only take a year for people to finish. So people were looking for work this fall into next year. So I think our timing was perfect on putting it out. And then to DCI's credit, we really put the bid packages together well to get a lot of bidders, but also really good quality bidders. And with 11 bid packages, like Matt said, we have 11 primes. And so that helps us manage everybody a little bit better too than having 20 primes or 20 subs or something along those lines. So with that, I would take any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Michael to kind of talk high level about the bid packages, and then also about the alternates that we recommend accepting.
Angie,
Council, if there's questions for Angie.
Thanks, Mr.
Eric,
Mayor.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Angie, Eric Klein here. First of all, congratulations on coming in, you know, $1.5 million under what the budget was. That's tremendous right there. I noticed that Core Structural Services has 3 out of the 11 contracts right there, totaling about 27% of the business right there. That's a pretty significant percentage for one contractor. Can you tell us a little bit more about Core Structural Services and what kind of references they have, as they have that biggest part of our contracting business for the public safety facility?
Yeah, I will actually turn that over to Michael. That is a discussion that we have all had, and they do have subs. Like their precast is not done by them. It's done by a sub that we're very comfortable with. So it's the install and parts and pieces that they're taking there. But I'll go ahead and turn that over to Michael. But yeah, we are comfortable. They're in the market. They do a lot of projects, and they have a large enough team to complete all of this. But I'll turn that over to Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I can address that question. Appreciate it. And good evening, everybody. Core Structural Services, they've done quite a few large projects. They're actually working with us right now on the Warren County Justice Center, doing somewhat of a similar scope. They've got precast on that project as well. As Angie mentioned, Core Structural Services will handle the concrete construction. Core Structural Services will handle. They'll sub out things like the precast, which is Enterprise, which we are very familiar with as well. We've done a number of projects with Core Structural here in the past few years. They've been successful. They've got the manpower and the crew to handle it, and we have confidence in their ability to finish the scope on time and in schedule.
And Eric, one thing I will add on that is we always look at the bids to make sure there's not an outlier, that there's not somebody that came in $300,000 low or $500,000 low. and we feel like they missed something, or they're trying to potentially maybe buy the project or whatever. And Core was right in line. They were barely low on bid package 2. And so we don't feel like they're missing scope, missing anything like that. So we're confident. Yeah, as Matt's showing you, I mean, all those numbers were right in line with each other. So we're very comfortable with them.
Angie, we're not going to see a change order for $250,000 down the road then, correct?
We should not be seeing change orders. No, that's one thing I should add. By bringing on DCI, they fully reviewed SVPA's drawings. We had additional meetings with city staff to make sure everything that we wanted was in the documents before it went out to bid. So I feel like we have very good bids because we had a very good set of drawings and extra eyes looking at them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, council? You know, I understand that, and this is something to be celebrated. You know, with $1.5 million under estimates, and so I appreciate Eric's question. Well, let's understand. Let's quantify things. Let's make sure that, hey, we're not $1.5 million under today, but then we change order up another $500,000 later on, or those kinds of things. And I know that this team has done everything within their power to vet that accordingly. So certainly appreciate the question, but truly an exciting time for us. You know, with, as Matt said, our largest project in scope really that we've ever undertaken is truly exciting for us, and will be a game changer for our police and first responders, not only in the community of Clive, but in the communities that surround us as well, as we work to partner with them. Matt, is there anything else to add before we go forward?
Yeah, I just want to give Michael an opportunity to talk a little bit about, we do have a couple alternates that we're recommending that we reviewed with the facility committee last week. And then the alternates are related to electrical and mechanical. The big alternate is a small solar array to have on the roof of the facility, as well as some UV and disinfection equipment on the HVAC system. And this was kind of one of those post-pandemic or in the midst of the pandemic ads that we made, thinking about this as a public safety facility and the folks that are going to be in there. Some things that I'll probably be looking at facilities going forward. But I wanted to give Michael a chance to talk a little bit about that and just reinforce for the council that we also saw good numbers on those alternates as well. And we'll be recommending that. Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Yes, and just to kind of reiterate what both Matt and Angie said, we got a number of bids per bid package. Out of the 11 prime packages we had, 8 of those had 5 or more bids that were all very competitive. We're all very close to each other, which, as Angie mentioned, is a great sign. When we have big outliers one way or the other, high or low, it can get concerning. But these contractors were all bundled pretty closely on their numbers. So we feel very confident in the contractors that came in low, that we feel they have the scope. We also reach out to them here this week, and we'll continue those conversations in the coming weeks to verify their scope and make sure they understand the project requirements and expectations. As far as the alternate, our alternate number 1 was for solar panel arrays on the roof. Right now there's about 490 panels identified to be on the roof. Angie has been working with SVPA to understand the buyback on that process. I believe, Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, they were calculating that at about 14 months.
14 years.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, 14 years. Thank you.
So it would produce about $12,800 a year. So it'd be a buyback of around 14 years. So.
Thank you. So Tri-City Electric, who was the apparent low bidder for the electrical package, they have the bulk of that work. Tri-City Electric does provide that service in-house, which is also a benefit, and we were going out to a subcontractor for that. Their alternate price was $212,005 for that scope of services. The other alternate pricing we got was pretty close in line, ranged from 195. We had another 212, 216. It was all very close bundled together. So we feel pretty confident about that price from Tri-City. The other alternate that we had was, as Matt explained, was for the installation of UV lights in the air handling unit system. So these UV lights get installed in the filtration system, and the intent is for those to kill bacteria prior to them getting into the duct system. So as air is being filtrated through the system, that those UV lights are shining on that air and killing microbes that are coming through the system. So this was a great practice to put in place, especially with the situation we deal with now with COVID. And really, when you look at the dollar value for this, it's a pretty minor cost impact to the overall project. Tri-City, again, has a slight cost to this of $320. Theirs is just for the connection to the system. The majority of the cost comes from LA Fulton and Sons, who is the apparent low bidder for the mechanical. Their cost was $4,800 to provide these UV lights inside the air handling units on the rooftop. Any questions on those alternates? Anything I can help clarify?
I would move to close the public hearing.
Second.
You're on mute, Your Honor.
Thank you. My apologies. It's been moved by John, seconded by Eric to close the public hearing. But before we do, is there anybody here to speak on this item? If so, make yourself known to Pete DeCook so that he can plug you in.
I'm not seeing any hands going up, sir.
Seeing none, will the council please vote? And that passes 5-0 to close the public hearing.
Move the resolution approving plans, specs, form of contract, and estimate of cost.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Michael.
Michael and Angie just mentioned the solar panels on top. I know it's a 14-year return on those. I think during that committee meeting we discussed, I think it's important to say those, was it 20 or 25? I can't remember the lifespan of those. 14 years seems like a long time for a return, but when the lifespan of those is for 20 or 25 years, it starts to make, more than just kind of that warm and fuzzy environmental right thing to do, but also a financial right thing to do when you can start returning after those years. Is that correct, Angie, or Michael, do you remember?
Yeah, that is correct. And then I should also add that 14 years does not include any rebates or anything that we may go get. So that payback could be less now that we're choosing this. Now that we're choosing this, we can go out and try to find out what rebates and stuff there are too. So the payback could actually be less once we evaluate that as well.
Angie, I was going to ask, is that typical for Mid-Am to do those rebates? Is there outside or any federal credits or anything of that nature that might be applicable here as well?
The federal credit, it went away. There's talk about it coming back. So us, along with the Wilden Group, we will explore that and see what else there is. So there used to be a federal credit. It went away. There's talk of it coming back. We're unsure, but we will explore all those along with the Mid-American credit.
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I could, I would also add, as Councilmember McCoy alluded to, this is a part of a bigger story with this facility in terms of the sustainable aspects that were incorporated into this building, both in the design of the materials to be long lasting, the significant stormwater facilities that we'll have on this as an example for the community and other developers that we're working with. We're using multiple practices in terms of the stormwater management on this site. That'll be very good to be able to show off and get our own hands dirty in terms of maintaining these types of facilities, the solar panels on the roof. And then if I could add too with the electrical, we're in a fortunate position. Obviously this facility will have backup generation. It also will be serving as our new data center site and then have the access to multiple circuits from Mid-American. That is something that we've talked to them about. So will be probably the best suited powered facility in the city, I think, when we're all said and done, which with the services that we have in there and then our data center, core that we'll have in that facility is very critical. So very happy with how that turned out.
Matt, is this an LED rated facility?
So we're not necessarily going after LEED certification just due to the costs of that certification, but I know Angie and Michael could probably speak to this a little better than I, that we're basically at a LEED service level, just not necessarily seeking the certification. We didn't necessarily see the cost associated with that because we're doing commissioning of this facility anyway. It's required as a part of the codes, but not necessarily going after the certification. I don't know if Angie, you want to speak a little more to that.
Yeah, that is correct. We'll do everything the energy efficiency way. We're working, and most of that is the lower level of LEED. Most of the time, if you do all the energy efficiency codes, you get to that lower level of LEED. So we have explored to be as energy efficient as possible, but we are not going for certification. That commissioning and that testing and the plaque is very, very expensive. And so we're just not going to be certified, but you will have a very energy efficient building.
So you're using LEED certification standards as the template for our facility.
Yeah, as the baseline.
Essentially what you're saying, yeah.
Yep, we're using it as a baseline for sure.
Okay. Good discussion points on all fronts. Others? Okay, this item has been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, will the council please vote? That item passes 5-0.
Move to receive the bids.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And that passes 5-0.
Move the resolution awarding contracts for the prime construction packages in the amount of $10,807,108.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote?
Councilman Klein, your vote has not come in yet. Thank you.
Try it now. It showed a plate.
Got it.
And that item passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Staff and members of the team, and certainly council. Eric, thank you. Big applause and a big thank you to everyone, certainly for getting us this far. Great planning and I think a great team effort. So truly exciting and game changing for us. Looking forward to next steps. Okay, we'll move to the second public hearing now, which is regarding the 2020 Alice's Road demolition project. And Matthew, did we publish appropriate public notice?
Yes, Your Honor, that was published September 9th, 2020 in the Des Moines Register.
Thank you, Matthew. And Doug.
Yes, thank you. Not nearly as exciting as building a public safety building. We are talking about removing a few of the homes for the future Alice's Road widening that'll be necessary. These are 3 homes that we have purchased here within the last few months and are now looking forward to getting those demolished. We put out a request for bids earlier last month. We received 2 bids from Elder Corporation and Earth Services. The bid tab is included in your packet. At this point, we would recommend approval of the resolution approving plans and specifications. We'd also recommend receipt of bids. And finally, we would recommend award a contract to Elder Corporation, who is the apparent low bidder. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Doug. Council, questions for Doug?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Michael to close the public hearing. Before we do, is there anybody here to speak on this item?
I don't see any hands going up, Your Honor.
Seeing none, will the council please vote? That passes 5-0 to close the public hearing.
Move the resolution approving plans and specs.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Michael. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? Item passes 5-0.
Move to receive the bids.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Michael. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? That passes 5-0.
Move the resolution awarding contract to Elder Corporation for $112,510.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Michael. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? That item passes 5-0. Thank you, Doug. Okay, we'll move to action item number 3 now. This is to receive and file a petition regarding a left turn access request from Walnut Creek Drive onto Northwest 128th Street. And Matt, you have the background on
Your
this.
Honor, tonight we're asking the council to receive and file a petition that we received recently from the residents in the Diamond Ridge Townhome and Woodland Villas Townhome Villas area. The map that was included in the petition in your packet is on the screen here, and was submitted to us. What we would ask is the council receive and file this petition and then direct staff to develop a report for you all, analyzing the request in terms of the median cut in 128th Street that the residents are looking for, that they're petitioning for, and provide you back a report on kind of the historical background of how this development occurred and the ingress egress rights that these developments have with the developments and streets to the private streets to the south, and kind of talk through the traffic geometry of that particular part of 128th Street, and provide that report back to you and the residents with a recommendation for your consideration at a future meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions regarding that. And I'm not sure if Carl is on the, we made him aware of the details of the meeting tonight. I'm not sure if he's on there as well, if he had any comments or council had any questions for him if he is on the call or on the Zoom meeting.
Carl, if you're on, if you'd make yourself known to Pete so he can get you plugged in, and then we'll start with questions if there are any.
One moment, Mayor, it appears Carl is with us. Carl, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Good evening, Carl. If you'd state your name and address for the record, we would appreciate that, and then we'll get started here.
One moment, Your Honor. Carl, I think the way to unmute yourself is to hit *6. There you go.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Carl. If you'd state your name and address for the record, and then you can make any comments you'd like, and then we'll have some questions. So how about that?
Sure.
Okay,
Perfect.
very good. Thank you.
My name is Carl Shaver, and my address is 12594 Diamond Ridge. I am representing two groups of individuals, both the owners of Diamond Ridge. It's 27 units there and 23 units in the Woodlands Villas. I would thank the staff and the council for letting me address this issue. We are asking the city to study and plan and install a medium cut just west of privately owned Walnut Creek, which serves the two associations. We feel that this is a simple improvement which will greatly enhance the traffic flow in and out of the two subdivisions. The demographics reveal that the majority of the southbound traffic on privately owned 126th Street, which is kind of a snake street that winds through the Woodlands Villas, is the majority of that traffic is Diamond Ridge. And that's, of course, because we cannot take a southbound turn off of Walnut Creek Drive onto southbound 128th Street. I was informed that prior to the widening and the installation of the medium there on 128th, southbound access was allowed from Walnut Creek Drive. So this improvement would simply take us back to the original traffic flow, which was provided prior to the relocation and the bridge construction across Walnut Creek. And I also included in the document for your review the tax revenue, and I'm not saying that the tax revenue by itself is a proxy for the justification for this project, but I will point out that all the streets within the two subdivisions are privately owned. And so we, of course, pay for the snow removal and any street improvements for those own streets. I also recognize that the revenue that is listed there is certainly not goes to the city, but I'm just pointing out that the streets are privately owned and are privately maintained. Many of the present owners, again, predate the improvements on 128th Street, so we requested this. We believe that this request is well justified, perhaps an opportunity of practical wisdom being applied. So our simple analogy is two of you were next door neighbors, and due to the property access, one of you had to cross over the neighbor's driveway on a daily basis, causing perhaps traffic and safety concerns for your family. Would you want the other to continue to use your driveway on a daily basis? And this simple improvement rectifies that present situation. Any questions?
Carl, thank you. And you've obviously given us a lot of thought and have just by nature of the petition have spent a great deal of time to gather signatures and talk to your neighbors. So that effort's appreciated.
Yeah.
Councilor, are there questions for Carl or for Matt on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question for Matt. Matt, how long does a study like this typically take, just so Mr. Shawver has a sense of what to expect? And are we doing that in-house or is that outsourced?
My intent would be to have our engineering team review this request, provide their professional analysis of the request and the historical background, because there's a lot tied to these developments as well. This would be an internal staff project, and our hope would be is to get you something here within the next month, would be my projection. So hopefully no later than your November meeting. But again, I also haven't conferred with staff just to make sure that works, but definitely by the end of the year would be my expectation. Of course, if there is any desire to construct something in this median that even if we started today, we wouldn't be able to get that in this construction season anyway. So it wouldn't be impactful until next year, but our hope would be by the end of the calendar year to get something back to the council for your reaction and decision.
And then Matt, presuming that it was approved, would that work be done next spring, next summer, next year?
It's spring, summer, just depending on your direction. Don't want to necessarily preclude what constraints we would have on that, but I would say this would be a relatively minor project if we were able to proceed, if the council wanted to, based on what staff will provide as feedback. This would be a relatively minor project.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, council? Thank you, Ted.
I'd move to receive and file and direct staff to report back to us as the city manager recommended.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Ted. Further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the important thing for me moving forward on this one is the history of this area, and the agreements will really mean a lot. So just to reiterate that on the study, for staff to give me history would be important for me.
Right, absolutely, and we'll look forward to that information. Thanks, Michael. Any other questions, council?
Matt, do we have traffic counts? Recent traffic counts?
We'll have traffic counts, especially DOT traffic counts on 128th Street. Walnut Creek Drive, I don't believe we'll have traffic counts on that necessarily, but definitely on 128th Street through this area.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, will the council please vote?
This is Carl. Is my time up, or can I have another 30 to 60 seconds?
Carl, if we'd let the council vote, please, to receive and file the
Sure.
petition, then you can have another minute. Council, if you would, please.
Councilman Weaver, your vote has not come in yet.
Yeah, my whole screen went dead on me, so I'm a yes. I just have to get back in.
I will click it in.
Thank you. It timed out on me.
That passes 5-0 to receive and file the petition, and staff will report then back to the council. Carl, further comment?
Yeah, thank you. When I bought my place in March of 2009, within probably the first year, I did call the city staff and talk through this situation. And I don't remember who I talked to, I apologize, but the response I got at that time, this was back in 2009, I believe, was they were concerned about traffic congestion southbound 128th Street. They didn't want to slow that traffic down coming off the bridge, which I totally understand. And that's why we drafted the recommendation the way we did. It was only a southbound access. It would not allow a left-hand turn off of southbound 128th. Now, I will point out to you that if you go over on 100th Street, which is approximately 18 blocks to the east, we've got the exact same situation. 100th Street is double, two-lane, both directions of Center Boulevard, and you go southbound across the bridge, and immediately you've got a left-hand turn lane onto Lincoln. Okay, so I went over there and drove 27 properties to the east along Lincoln, which represents the same number of taxing units that is represented within the Diamond Ridge area. And I counted 3 houses to 97th Street. So it's about 3 blocks of city-owned street that you're maintaining along Lincoln Avenue. And so my comment is recognizing the number of tax units within the 2 subdivisions is a left-hand turn lane off of southbound 128 appropriate. I believe it is because I look at the other interchanges within the area. So I'm using it as a side comment. I think it's very appropriate to look at a southbound left-hand turn off of 128th, which will allow access into the 2 subdivisions. For right now, to get into Diamond Ridge southbound, you have to go to Woodlands Avenue, and then you creep down northbound to northwest to 126th Street, I'm sorry. Or you make a U-turn at Woodlands Avenue, which is marked no U-turn. So because of the traffic flow, right now we are forced to trespass through the Woodlands villas in order to get into Diamond Ridge southbound 128th Street. That fact, I think, should be considered in this study. Thank you again for your time.
Carol, thank you. And again, appreciate all of your efforts to bring this forward on behalf of your neighbors and bring it to the council's attention. Matt, we'll look forward to your report. All right, so forgive me, did the council vote on this? We did.
We did vote there. We need to see the results.
I think that was 5-0, correct? Sorry, I didn't get it. Okay, very good. Thanks everybody for their time on that one. So we'll move to action item number 4, which is resolution approving the Clive 2020-2026 strategic plan. And Matt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight is the culmination of months worth of work on behalf of this council, mayor and council, and your management team to put together the next 12-month work plan related to your Clive strategic plan and the vision and mission that you've set for this organization. Happy to show those final documents to you that have been prepared by Lyle Summick's office with the top and high priorities on both the policy and management agenda, and really setting the focus for the staff for the next 12 months that we will be bringing back to you for a number of actions and decisions as we go throughout the next year. And so very happy to present this to you. I'll be happy to entertain any questions or comments from the council, but otherwise staff would recommend your approval of this update for the coming year.
Matt, thank you. I'll start. And you know, we, due to COVID this year, we did a kind of a remote hybrid approach to this year, which I think worked very, very well. So again, my thanks to Matt, you and the staff team for you know, making that process work well, but also for the results that we get every year from this process. I think it makes us better. We've chosen as a group to do it every year, and it helps to keep us focused. Again, we don't all agree on everything totally, but we find a way to find high-level consensus on direction. And so this time, energy, and resource serves us well, I think, as a city. So again, my thanks again. Council, questions or comments for Matt on what's been accomplished here, or what our goals are?
Move approval.
Second.
It's moved by John, seconded by Eric. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote?
I'm a yes.
John.
Yeah.
That passes 5-0. Thank you all for that. Okay, we'll move to reports now, and Pete, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, on Saturday morning, and then the following Saturday, we will be back to our mayor's cleanup. So that is something we've been very happy to communicate, and you won't be surprised. We've had a lot of excellent response from folks on our social media platforms. I think we've done a good job getting the news out to folks about the changed date, but we'll give it one last push again tomorrow. If you do get questions from constituents, there's a news story on the front page of cityofclive.com that they can click on with all the information about what will and won't be accepted, and then for items that won't be accepted, how they can responsibly get rid of those. Second, Councilman Edwards had brought this to the attention of the council, but it was also something that was brought up at the MAC and a number of other places. The United Way's equity, I'll get the appropriate name on this one moment. Equity Challenge, which is throughout roughly the month of October, a set of emails that will be sent to participants specifically about issues of equity and fairness. And the city has decided that we will be moving forward with that. And so that will be a daily email that participants will be receiving to get a chance to learn a little bit more about these issues and think about how they apply to the city of Clive. Third, Beggars Night. As the council has discussed and as the mayor and Matt have discussed, We've been waiting to make sure we get direction from all of the appropriate public health officials. At this time, we have some direction from Dallas County Public Health, which overwhelmingly was similar to what the CDC has put out. And we're still waiting to see what might come out from Polk County and then what our neighboring communities are doing. At this point, it appears that everybody is sort of tentatively setting out a date, some more firmly than others, everybody acknowledging that they want folks to do this safely. So at this point, the city of Clive, our position is that we would do as we've already been directed, which is to wait and get that direction from Polk County and then evaluate. The time to make a decision will be the first meeting in October. And should the council decide that they do want to go ahead and still move forward with the date, the staff has already started preparing some strategies for how we can help families do this safely in Clive if they choose to participate. We want to make sure that if we get to that point and you all give it the green light, that absolutely we're in a position to make sure that we are doing this in the most responsible way possible. And I also think it would be a really positive story for our city too if we could community-wide come up with some really fun strategies that normalize this a little bit for our kiddos, even though we know these are not normal times. Finally, tonight, and then I'll take questions, update on our census participation. Our self-response rate now is still well over what we achieved in the 2010 census. We're at 80.2% compared to 78.4% in self-response rate in 2010. We're still tied with Urbandale for the top spot in the metro. And yes, still today, excuse me, we sent out a postcard to the one census district that is a little behind where they were at this time last year, or excuse me, at the last census. That's the district that was broadly around the 86th Street neighborhoods. They've got a couple percentage points to go to get to where they were in 2010. They're 61.3% right now, which has been climbing kind of by tenths over the last 2 weeks. In 2010, we were at 63.6. So we hope that last little push with some social media and also these postcards will help folks remember to complete this because we all know it's very important for the city.
Pete, thank you. Questions for Pete, Council? Thank you, Pete. Let's move over to Ted.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I have is that attended the mental health, the new mental health hospital tour today, along with Eric, Matt, Pete, and 2 chiefs. Very interesting. They're making a lot of good progress. Still got a long way to go, but you know, we got to see their facility and you know, some of the various rooms that they have, the setup that they have as far as the entry and their courtyard and things of that nature. So pretty interesting. They're making a lot of good progress. Sounds like they're hoping to be done by about February or early spring sometime. So, so good tour.
Ted, thank you. Obviously, we'll look forward to that, and what an investment that they have there. A lot of space to walk through, I surmise. Good. Well, thank you. Eric, we'll move over to you.
Nothing further. Ted pointed out our visit today.
Okay, thank you, Eric. John?
And nothing tonight.
Thank you, John. Susan?
Sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button. Just real briefly, the Bravo board met, as did the finance committee. We continue to watch very carefully financial resources. We're moving from basing what is distributed on projections to more of a cash basis for that reason. And we're also restructuring a little bit the grant award process. And Carrie Walter Ashby from Ankeny and I had some concern on behalf of the 2080 entities on how some of the smaller recipients might be impacted by the changes. But staff took some extra time outside of the meeting to walk through some of those changes. And bottom line is, it actually slightly benefits the smaller recipients over the larger ones. So I think kudos to Sally Dix and others for coming up with some good recommendations and solutions for a difficult time.
Susan, thank you. And John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What are they going to do about the loss of the gala? Or has that been figured out?
Yes, that will be announced. It hasn't been publicly announced yet. And they want to do it in the context of offering some suggestions for people to donate who really care about the arts to help accomplish the overall goal. And the reality is the gala does not generate a lot of resources for grant contributions. It's better than break even, but not that much. So it's kind of touted as something that is a good reminder to the community of how much we appreciate and support the arts. But perhaps there are some ways to help it be even better through donations this year. So they want to be ready to tell that story when the official announcement comes out, and we should see that soon.
I was encouraged to see how successful Principal was.
Yeah.
Without the event. I mean, millions of dollars. That was great.
It's a great example.
John, you and I might have read the same article, but Susan, Bravo is still a recipient from the Principal Charity Classic. Yeah, I didn't see it noted in the Register article this morning. I'll have to go back and look at that. But that's a great point, John. Philanthropy has not stopped in the greater Des Moines region. So Susan, thank you. Michael.
I just want to have one thing. Tomorrow will be the Dark Property Tax Formula Workshop, extension of the workshop that's I think been going on for 3 years, but we're getting closer. And so I'll report back once we get a draft of that. I'll make sure each one of you get that for comment back to me so we can move forward, either John or I being on that committee. That's it.
Michael, thank you. Madam Council, anything for the group?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
You're welcome. Matt, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. A few items tonight. Just a reminder, with approval of the construction contracts, we will have the groundbreaking here in a couple weeks, exactly 2 weeks from today on October 8th at 3:30 p.m. out there. We're working with the church to see if we can, we'll probably more than likely park over at the church site there to the west. As I imagine by October 8th, we'll have equipment and construction fencing and everything up and ready to go. So they're definitely going to be moving quickly. So we're excited to do that. We've also reached out to our Urbandale neighbors to invite them as well to join us, since that station will respond into the city of Urbandale as well. And I believe that they will have, I know at least Mayor Andewig, maybe a few others will be there for that. So really excited to have that happen. And I just want to note, back to that particular item, Your Honor, that the team that the city has put together through the approval of the council with Angie and DCI in particular during this time period, it's really shown, I think, in the results that we had. And I can tell you, Michael Steen, I think that guy was on the phone for 2 weeks straight calling bidders, and I'm not even joking when I say that, because he definitely got the results that we were looking for. So I think that was a very sound investment by the city to bring on these team members to help us move this very complex project and again, most significant project we've undertaken along, and really proven to be helpful. And obviously we've got a lot more in front of us, over a year likely of construction, but just really happy with the team that we've put together. Also, kind of a preview for next week's meeting, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Greg Edwards, has reached out about wanting to provide an update. Speaking of Bravo earlier, another 2080 organization, Catch Des Moines, who also is funded by Hotel Motel Tax. It's been probably one of the most impacted by the COVID pandemic economic impacts. He wants to provide an update to the council kind of as a part of an annual report, but obviously very timely in terms of some of the challenges that they're dealing with as well. So he will be coming to the next meeting to provide that update. And then also we're kind of moving forward in kind of a quick manner to working with our friends at HR Green to get some a workshop in front of you at the next meeting related to community broadband and kind of the city's role. And this was a top priority of you all from the strategic plan that you just adopted. And we know we have to move this conversation along in a relatively quick manner with the MetroNet discussions that are also ongoing. And so we hope to have a kind of a little bit of visioning workshop with you all at the end of the next meeting with our friends from HR Green. So more to come on that. Also, tomorrow, my update, I will send attach that financial memo, financial strategies memo that I shared with you all during strategic planning, really looking for any additional feedback from the council on that. I'll probably be reaching out to you all individually next week as well via phone, just to reaffirm those items as we head into the CIP and budget process that are in full swing now, make sure we're consistent with your direction. And then just to circle back on Pete's comment related to Beggars Night, any comments or questions that the council may have, our intent would be at the next meeting is typically when we actually would have been this meeting to actually set Beggars Night for October 30th. We do that by proclamation every year. Our intent would be to have that on the next agenda on October 8th. Hopefully by that point with some specific guidelines, but really want to get the feedback from the council. Number one, that you're comfortable with this with it continuing to happen. And number two, is there anything that you want to make your staff aware of in terms of guidelines or things that we need to be keeping in mind as we try to educate the public to do this in a safe manner, beyond obviously what we may receive from our public health partners. So would love any feedback that you'd want to provide on that.
Matt, could you elaborate on what Dallas County has said? I think CDC said thumbs down, did they not?
So the CDC, I can actually, if you give me a minute here, I'll pop it up on the screen. But what we received from Dallas County, I'll bring it up here. It was basically the CDC guidelines where the specific typical trick or treat. Here, I'll share this. The typical trick or treat activities without reducing the contact points of basically doing it as it usually is done is considered a high risk activity. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that we've been kicking around at a staff level is there's some things that we could be encouraging in the community. There's these ideas of candy shoots that you could have where people keep distancing. Just think of a fancy PVC pipe where it allows people to keep distance and deliver candy to kids coming to their front door or front stoop. And so trying to think of some of those creative ways and what that could look like of still having the event, but under at least certain recommendations from the city, and maybe doing a library program on how to make certain things like a candy shoot or things like that to allow for that distancing and really make it a fun community activity, knowing that it's not going to look like the traditional Beggars Night of the past. So that's been our ideas, but what you have on the screen here is what the recommendations have been from CDC and then what Dallas County Public Health has shared with us. Again, we haven't heard anything from Polk County Public Health at this point, but we were hoping to before the end of September.
Yeah, Matt, I don't know how we get into, I guess I'm interested in ideas. You mentioned the candy shoot and just things that residents can do, obviously in the safest manner possible. I would be very interested in some creative ideas, additional creative ideas on that. But I guess, are we expecting some protocols from Polk County in that regard, in how this should be conducted? Because really our responsibility is to set a date with our neighboring communities, honor that date and time. But I think our residents may look to us to share ideas about how to do this as safely as possible.
Yeah, the request has definitely been made to Polk County Public Health through the normal committees that have been activated as a part of the COVID-19 response. So that is an active request that is out there. We just haven't heard a response yet at this point. I know the last feedback that we had gotten was they were wanting to see kind of where the case numbers were in Polk and Dallas County. As the council's aware, we've seen some downward trends. And I don't know if that's going to affect their recommendations or if they're just going to be similar to Dallas County and offer what the CDC has shared at this point. So the request is out there and outstanding, but we're hoping probably by the end of September we'll have to make some kind of recommendation to you all if you want to set the date, and we can put some guidelines in there that we're seeing, for example, here or other communities are considering. I think all of the others, a lot of other Polk County cities are waiting on the same thing from what I'm gathering from my colleagues. And so wish we had some more definitive answers from our public health partners at this point, but other than what we've heard from Dallas County, that's all I have at this point.
Matt, thank you. Council, other questions for Matt?
My comment would be that if we do have a resolution, I think it might behoove us to incorporate whatever we have from our Dallas or Polk County health people as part of that process to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, my comment is I think it's unrealistic for us to think that people aren't going to go out trick-or-treating with their kids. It's going to happen. And so I think it's more of our responsibility to provide some guidance and some guidelines, you know, whether that's try to use a costume that has a mask or whatever that is. But to think that people aren't going to go out and trick-or-treat, I think is unrealistic. So I think we just need to get something out to provide them some guidance.
And Councilman, if I might offer, the CDC guidance on this, and the page they keep updating also includes medium and low risk activities that could be part of what we would recommend for people who are feeling like traditional trick-or-treating is not for them, or they're in a high risk population.
What are some of those low risk things, Pete?
Matt's putting a couple of those up there on the screen right now. One way would be to, instead of using a candy chute, just have individually wrapped goodie bags that would be sitting at the end of your driveway so kids could walk by and pick them up. Mm-hmm. But others activities could be, and we've had some success with these during other points in the pandemic, something like a Halloween scavenger hunt that would be in Clive, or a virtual costume contest. Matt has some of those up on the screen. Just to be prepared for whichever direction you all wanted to go on this. I've already had some very positive early conversations with Matt and the library about how we might be able to pull some of these things off and make them very attainable for Clive families.
Do you think you could get the goats trained to deliver candy?
Well, I think the only person who can train goats is the goat godfather who's on this call, the councilman, but I'll consult with him and see if he has some guidance.
Okay.
I think using what's actually on the CDC page is a good idea, because this paraphrases it a little bit, and it specifically says, for example, under higher risk activities, don't do those. You know, not just depending on your risk level, here's what you do, but under higher risk, it says avoid these.
Certainly sure, Mr. Edwards, that if you get all that candy over to a certain house, we can try to work on the goat issue over the next 6 months with all that candy.
Well, the challenge has been made. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Matt and Pete, for a little more color on Beggars Night. And we'll await some more guidance, but I'll be prepared to have that discussion and make a decision at our next meeting. Are there other questions for Matt, Council? Okay, thank you, Matt. Matthew, is there any additional correspondence?
No, Your Honor, there are no additional correspondence.
Thank you, Matthew. Council, anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none, I'm going to adjourn us at 7:08 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for those who joined us on the call.